Hey there. Come on in. Grab a seat. Seriously, I am so glad you two decided to sit down with me today. Look, as your financial advisor, my job isn't to sit here and tell you how to live your life. But my job absolutely is to give you a brutally honest, purely math-driven reality check. We've spent, the last couple of years getting your portfolios totally dialed in? But today, we're diving into a full explainer on, honestly, the single biggest financial decision you are ever going to make: having a kid in 2026. Now, spoiler alert, we're not picking out nursery colors or baby names today. This is strictly about what happens when you take your carefully balanced spreadsheet and suddenly introduce a tiny, highly demanding, and very expensive human into the mix, especially since you guys live in a high-cost urban area. All right, let's get into it. Man, we all know the pressure, right? You're scrolling Instagram at 10 p.m. looking at yet another coworker's baby announcement, and somewhere in the back of your brain, a little voice just starts doing the math. Or, it's Thanksgiving, and your well-meaning aunt or that one invasive coworker casually drops the bomb. So, when are you guys having one? It's just this polite, simple little question. Look, they raised kids on one income decades ago. They genuinely do not understand why you're hesitating. They've got lots of opinions, but they definitely do not have your calculator. So today, we are totally ignoring the societal guilt trips, and we are focusing 100% on your actual financial reality. Because honestly, the world keeps telling you not to look at the numbers, but we really, really have to look. Ready? Here's the number that just completely breaks everyone's brain right out of the gate: $331,418. Yup. According to recent data, that is the conservative, I repeat, conservative average cost of raising just one child to age 18 in the United States right now. That's up almost 28% from literally just 3 years ago. Oh, and by the way, that is before we even breathe a word about college. You're basically looking at dropping between $17,000 and $23,000 every single year for 18 straight years. The math is incredibly intense, which is exactly why we need to map it all out together. So here's our game plan for today's explainer. First, the initial sticker shock. Second, delivery and unpaid leave. Third, the urban childcare crisis. Fourth, the two-income trap. Fifth, the long-term hidden costs. And finally, building your concrete financial action plan. Clarity is power, folks, so let's jump right in. Starting right off with Section 1, the initial sticker shock. We really need to weigh the massive cost of raising a kid against what an average household actually brings in. What's truly staggering to me here is just the sheer proportion of your wealth we're talking about. To put this in perspective, the median household income in this country is roughly $83,730, and mathematically, that's basically been flat since 2019 when you factor in inflation. So when you crunch the numbers, we are essentially asking the median family to hand over somewhere between 20% and 25% of their entire lifetime gross income just to raise one child. And remember, that's gross income. That's before the IRS even takes a slice, before you pay rent, before you buy a single grocery. For most young families, this ratio is a total mathematical anomaly. It basically means every single dollar you earn has to work significantly harder than it did for your parents. Which brings us to Section 2, delivery and unpaid leave. Let's talk about the immediate upfront costs that hit before the baby can even focus its eyes. Welcome to the realities of the US healthcare system. Literally, just the physical act of getting a human out of the body is insanely expensive. If everything goes absolutely perfectly on a standard employer-based health plan, your average out-of-pocket cost is still about $2,743. But wait, if a C-section is required, and hey, that happens in about 1 in 3 births, the gross cost shoots up to $29,000. And if anything goes sideways, an average NICU stay is over $71,000. Now sure, you have an out-of-pocket maximum, but you better have that cash completely liquid. And here is the silent killer that nobody warns you about: lost wages. Because the US has 0 federal paid leave, if you take the 12 weeks of unpaid FMLA leave just to, bond with your newborn and recover, the median full-time worker loses about $14,400 in wages. You add all that up, and a routine birth with a responsible amount of leave is going to hit you for roughly $17,000 right out of the gate. All right, moving on to Section 3, the urban childcare crisis. Let's look at the absolute budget breaker for city dwellers like yourselves. Listen to me, the current market is mathematically absurd. The national average for daycare is around $13,000, but honestly, if you live in a major urban center, you can just throw that average right in the trash. Take Washington, D.C., for example. The average infant daycare there is $24,243 a year. Think about that for a second. That is literally more than in-state tuition at the nearby University of Maryland. In fact, across the country, childcare for one infant now costs more than in-state college tuition in 41 out of 50 states. We've somehow built a system where dropping your 1-year-old off so you can go to work actually costs more than sending an 18-year-old to a 4-year public university. It's wild. Let me paint a picture of what this actually looks like for real people. Meet Jack and Emily. They're a hypothetical upper-middle-class couple living in Denver. They pull in a combined $156,000 a year. Awesome, right? That's about $13,000 gross every month. After taxes and insurance premiums, they take home $9,400. Now watch that money just vanish. Rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in a half-decent school district, $2,400. Daycare for just one toddler, $1,950. Groceries are $750. 2 car payments, because let's face it, the city isn't perfectly walkable, that's $700. Add in insurance, utilities, student loans, and those inevitable baby healthcare copays, their fixed monthly costs, literally just keeping the lights on and surviving the month, hits $7,600. Which leaves them with a terrifyingly thin margin. Jack and Emily, again, folks making $156,000 a year, are saving roughly $200 a month right now. $200? That tiny margin has to cover clothes, diapers, an unexpected car repair, and, oh yeah, their actual lives. They are way above the median income in every single category, yet they have less breathing room in their budget than their parents had on a single income back in 1985. It means you are living exactly one broken alternator away from carrying credit card debt for years. Which naturally leads us right into Section 4, the 2-income trap. Because when couples see those crazy daycare bills, the very first thought is almost always, well, one of us should just stay home, right? But dropping to one income, it's a dangerous financial illusion. When a parent, and let's be real, statistically it is almost always the mother, leaves the workforce or downshifts just to dodge that massive daycare bill, her earnings drop off a cliff. Full-time working mothers earned 35% less than full-time working fathers. And listen, this isn't just about losing out on 1 year of salary. You are sacrificing your long-term career trajectory, your retirement compounding, your social security base, and you're creating a massive resume gap that's hard to overcome. And that lands you squarely in what economists call the 2-income trap. This is a scenario where modern families basically require 2 full-time incomes just to cover vastly inflated fixed costs, like housing, healthcare, and education. That second paycheck isn't buying vacations. It gets completely absorbed just keeping the family machine running. You aren't getting ahead with 2 paychecks. You are literally just running fast enough on a treadmill to stay in place. If you give up that second income to save a few bucks on daycare, the entire structural foundation of your urban lifestyle is at risk of collapsing. Okay, moving to Section 5. The long-term hidden costs. So, say you survive year 1. You make it through the brutal daycare years. Hallelujah, public school starts, and finally, something is free. You can relax, right? Well, actually, not exactly. Because now the massive structural budget upgrades kick in. Adding a kid to your employer health plan usually bumps you from single or couple coverage straight to family coverage. That alone is a premium jump of $5,000 to $15,000 a year, and that doesn't even include higher deductibles. Then there's the housing issue. You outgrow that 2-bedroom apartment, and suddenly you desperately want to be in a better school district. Upgrading to a 3-bedroom in a good zip code, that'll cost you an extra $12,000 to $18,000 a year in most high-cost metros. And then, terrifyingly, there is college. If we project historical tuition growth out to 2044, when your future kid turns 18, in-state public universities could run $62,000 a year. Private colleges try $144,000 a year. Let that sink in. And hey, before you start wondering why you feel so incredibly alone shouldering all these massive costs, the structural environment explains it perfectly. Look at the data. The average OECD peer nation spends about $14,000 per child per year on childcare subsidies and early childhood support. The United States government spends about $500. Look, it's not a political statement. It's just the cold, hard math of the environment you are currently operating in. The overarching safety net just doesn't exist, which means your personal, individual spreadsheet has to be absolutely bulletproof. Which brings us to the most important part of our meeting today, Section 6, your financial action plan. Now, I do not want you leaving this office in a panic. I want you to leave empowered. I want you making decisions based on math, not based on your aunt's expectations. So here is your advisor's checklist, concrete, actionable steps you need to take right now. Number 1, stress test your health insurance. Find out exactly what your max out-of-pocket is for the year and get that exact amount of cash sitting comfortably in a high-yield savings account. 2, I want you to price 3 actual local daycare centers in your specific zip code by this coming Tuesday. Get real numbers, not national averages. 3, build up your emergency fund completely before you buy a single item for a nursery. And 4, if and when a baby does arrive, open a 529 college savings plan the exact week they are born. Even if it's just $50 a month, it matters so much when you let it compound over 18 years. And finally, as your advisor, I am giving you the ultimate financial permission slip right here, right now. You are absolutely allowed to look at this math and decide, you know what, this doesn't work for us right now. You are allowed to have 1 kid instead of 3. You are allowed to wait 3 more years until your careers are more established. You are completely allowed to look at the numbers and say, not yet, or frankly, even not at all. The nosy coworker, the aunt, those perfectly curated Instagram influencers, yeah, absolutely none of them are signing your daycare checks. So do not let anyone shame you into a massive financial commitment that completely implodes your stability. So I want you to take this final thought home tonight. Sit on the couch, look each other right in the eye, and ask yourselves, are we making this decision for the gram, for a family's expectations, or are we making it for our actual financial future? Take your time, run your own numbers, and whenever you're ready to adjust the portfolio for whatever path you choose, you know my door is always open.